Hello! So today I'm going to talk about Pearl, written by Sian Hughes. My 13th and final read from the Booker longlist. So this is going to be the last time I'm going to say this until next year. So say it with me, everybody. It's Booker season, baby. Based around themes of family, loss, aging, parenting, and memory. We follow Marianne, who is 8 years old when her mother goes missing. She is left behind with her baby brother, her grieving father, in a ramshackle house on the edge of a small village. She clings to the fragmented memories she has of her mother, growing herbs in the garden, playing games, and her mother reading stories to her. As time passes, Marianne struggles to adjust, fixated on the disappearance of her mother and the secrets that she's sure her father is keeping from her. She discovers a medieval poem called Pearl, which she thinks was her mother's favourite poem, and she clings to the promise of eventual comfort this poem gives her. As she ages, Marianne sets out to create a visual illustration of this poem, something she keeps coming back to throughout her life, but never manages to finish. She is tormented by an unmarked gravestone in a chapel and a tidal pool of the river. Her childhood home starts to crumble as the past leads her down a path of self-destruction. But can art heal Marianne, and can her own future as a mother help her find peace? So that's the blurb. The prose is very lyrical in this book, and it is striving to make the mundane very poetic. This is another very insular read from the Booker longlist. The events that happen in Marianne's life are very normal. It's an exploration of a life lived with the loss and abandonment of a parent, and how your memory as you age starts to twist and distort. I would say Pearl is very similar to Western Lane in its themes. Even though Pearl covers a much larger space of time, both of them are looking at the idea of loss and how loss impacts the family unit. They are also both very pared back in the events they are exploring. They are quite normal in that sense. These are normal people and the experiences of loss on normal lives, if even there is such a thing as a normal life. In my opinion, Pearl is far more successful in its aims than Western Lane. So what did I like and what didn't I like? What I liked. I actually really liked the poetic writing style in this one. It flowed beautifully all the way through and the pacing was solid. I liked how it is trying to find gravitas and meaning in the mundane. I also really liked how it's playing around with memory. I have always been fascinated with memory, and especially books that look at the idea of different interpretations of a single event. Now, this book is not really doing that as such, but it is playing around with memory, how Marianne's memory is slowly twisting or distorting the things she thought about her mother or the way that she may have remembered events. And yeah, I really liked that aspect of this book. This book has a lot of heart, and I think if you were raised by a single parent or lost a parent when you were really young, then this book is going to connect with you even more. I want to point out a personal highlight moment for me in this book. It's a moment when Marianne, she's older and she is remembering all the things that her dad did for her when she was younger, all of the things that she took for granted. Now, I had a very similar moment to this in my own life. I don't exactly remember when it was, but it was when I was very firmly an adult and I was doing all the things that my parents used to do. And then I just had a moment of remembering all of the things that they used to do and then the extras that they did for me as well. And it was quite overwhelming how little, or how much, I took for granted everything they had done for me. I don't know if every kid goes through this when they hit adulthood. They have that moment where they realise, or, if you're lucky enough to have parents who really strived and worked hard, to realise all of those different things that they did for you, and it is quite overwhelming. And this moment in this book took me right there. The memory it took me to, and I don't know why it's this one, is my dad used to wake up for work at 5:30 a.m. in the morning, and he wouldn't get home from work till 7:30 p.m. in the evening. Now, I used to do like stunts and ride BMX bikes all the time. My bike would break constantly, and he would always come back at 7:30. And if I asked him, the first thing he would do with me would help me fix my bike. I can't even imagine how tired he must have been and how he was just so willing to spend that time after work helping me do it. I don't know, like in my head where I am right now, I would just want to sit on the sofa or make dinner as quickly as possible and just take a moment to myself. I'm not a parent, so maybe that's just what parents do. Or, if you're lucky enough to have parents who give a shit, kind of do. But yeah, I had that moment. I read this book, that moment happened, I connected with it, and it just really hit. So not that that's particularly that important to you as a reader, but it is something in this book that I was able to find a really solid kind of connection to. What didn't I like? Okay, so I think a lot of my reasons or a lot of my dislikes are actually going to be things that a lot of people really like about this book. So my dislikes are really personal to me. Now, I know every time I do a review, of course, all of my dislikes are very personal to me. But in this case, I think it might be the fact that I'm going to mention something and you are probably in your head going to go, oh, but that's the reason I really love this. So just take that into account. It's a very insular novel and the life that we're following is very normal. But for some reason, that means that quite a lot of this book is quite forgettable. Also, this book is very short and it does a really good job at giving us an idea of how the loss of a parent has impacted Marianne's life. And I'm really grateful that the book decided to be a little larger in its scope than, say, Western Lane and take us to Marianne as an adult. But I just needed more events. I needed to spend more time with Marianne and I needed the scope of some of those events to maybe be a little bit more dramatic and not so pared back. Again, some people will love this book for that reason, but for me, yeah, it's just not big enough. I just wanted it to stand out more with its exploration and the scope of what it was trying to do. My favourite sections of this book are the sections when Marianne is older. And even though we get a fair amount of time with her when she's older, the sections when she's younger cover a lot more ground. And I think maybe, just maybe, I'm a bit burnt out on Booker Longlist books that deal with children and the loss of a parent, which is why I'm gravitating to the aspects of Marianne dealing with her loss as an adult a lot more. I just don't think I'm going to remember a lot of the events or the things that happen in this book in, say, like a month's time, because it plays everything just a bit too small. I really enjoy 800-page plus books. I just like epic fiction. I really like being in a character's head for a long time, experiencing the highs and the lows of their lives, and just really going on a journey. And this book, it just doesn't push far enough for me to be something personally that I would fall in love with. But it's a testament to Sian Hughes and the character she's created of Marianne, in which I really did want to stick with her for so much longer than the book allowed. With all that being said, even though the events and what took place in this novel isn't going to stick around with me for that much longer, when I do look at the cover of this novel, it is going to provoke a feeling in me, that feeling of loss, that feeling of growing up with that loss, much more so than Western Lane or How to Build a Boat. So out of the three books that deal with young people and loss and its impact, this book was by far the most successful out of all three. I thought this book was very good, so I'm going to give it 3.5 stars out of 5. I'm very glad I read it. Right, everybody, we did it. I have read every single book from the Booker Longlist. So if you have watched every single review I have done of the books on the Booker Longlist, I want to thank you so much for going on this journey with me. Even if our opinions on certain books on the long list have differed, I really want to thank you for commenting if you have, and again, for watching along. I will say that my favourite aspect of always doing the Booker long list, even if I disagree with why some of them might be on there, even if I don't enjoy a vast amount of the books on the list, is always the discourse that ensues. Chatting to people, different people's opinions on the books, watching different reviews of how people have felt about different books is the reason I do it, because I enjoy that aspect the most. So, once again, thank you so much for watching. And just to make sure that I sign off properly, have you read Pearl by Sian Hughes? And if so, what did you think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Please let me know in the comments below. And as always, I want to thank you so much for watching, and I hope you're well.